Audiobook Academy Biography presents Robert Redford. Films like The Sting and The Way We Were have made Robert Redford one of the most beloved actors in the world. The Sundance Institute was founded in the early 80s by him, and he is also a renowned filmmaker, producer, and businessman. Robert Redford, who is he? On August 18, 1936, Robert Redford was born on the California coast in Santa Monica. Since then, he has established himself as one of the greatest actors of his generation, starring in such masterpieces as The Sting, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Candidate, and The Way We Were. In addition, Redford was instrumental in the founding of the Sundance Film Festival, which has grown to be a prestigious event in the film business and a benefit to independent filmmakers. As a producer and director, he's won an Oscar for Ordinary People and been nominated for Best Director and Best Picture at the Oscars for Quiz Show. Early age. One of the greatest American cinema actors and directors of all time, Robert Redford was born Charles Robert Redford Jr. in Santa Monica, California on August 18, 1936. At home in front of the camera or behind the scenes, he is equally at ease. The Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival, which Redford co-founded, have been instrumental in advancing the careers of numerous filmmakers. Redford's father was a milkman who subsequently became an oil company accountant, while his vivacious mother had a love for books and movies. Redford, like his uncle, was an all-around athlete in his youth, excelling in track and field, tennis, and football, as well as having a thriving love life. Redford, on the other hand, claimed he struggled in other settings. "I was, in fact, a failure at every endeavor. I was dismissed from my job as a box boy at a supermarket. After that, my father obtained me a position at Standard Oil, where I was dismissed for the second time in 1980, he told Success magazine that this was the case. In addition to stealing hubcaps and getting onto other people's property to use their swimming pools, Redford has had a few run-ins with the cops. Van Nuys High School graduated Redford in 1954. Redford's mother died of septicemia in 1955, leaving him terribly bereft. The life of an artist abroad. Even though Redford was awarded a baseball scholarship to the University of Colorado, his athletic abilities were not very impressive while attending college there. "I became the campus drunk and blew out before I could really get going," he said in an interview with People magazine in 1998. Redford was said to have dropped out or been expelled from the institution, depending on the source. Whichever the case, he made the decision to study art in Europe. A bohemian lifestyle and exposure to art, culture, and international events were among the highlights of young Redford's stay abroad. The conversations Redford had with Parisian students were crucial. "At the time, I felt politically challenged because of the way we all lived together. I had no idea what to do," he stated in an article for The New Statesman in 2007. "Whenever they interrogated me on the Algerian War, which was raging at the time and was a hot topic in France, I felt ashamed. I felt bad about how little I knew about the state of affairs in my own nation. Following my 2-year absence, I returned to the United States much more culturally and politically aware than I had been before." Getting started. Redford met Lola Van Wagenen in Los Angeles after returning to the United States. In 1958, the couple was married and moved to New York City, where they had their first child shortly after. Redford began his training in acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts after first attending the Pratt Institute in New York City. When the couple's 5-month-old son Scott died of sudden infant death syndrome in 1959, he and his wife were devastated. Redford, who had been educated not to overtly express his emotions, found solace in acting and began his career in the theater after the death of his mother. After Tall Story in 1959, he appeared in The Highest Tree in the same year. With Julie Harris and Conrad Janis in Little Moon of Alban, 1960, and Sunday in the Park, 1961, he had a starring role in both films. When Mike Nichols directed Barefoot in the Park, his breakout part was as a supporting actor for Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park. Redford starred as Paul Bratter, a newlywed lawyer in a romantic comedy about him and his wife Corey settling in Greenwich Village, Elizabeth Ashley. Way We Were in Sundance Kid. For a period of time, Redford appeared on television and made his film debut in 1962's War Hunt. In any case, it wasn't until he starred opposite Jane Fonda in 1967's Barefoot in the Park movie that actor's cinematic career really took off. In Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Redford made his name with an unforgettable performance. While Paul Newman played Butch Cassidy, he took on the role of the Sundance Kid in the film. Their on-screen chemistry and camaraderie lasted long after the film was released, and it was a critical and financial success. To avoid being pigeonholed as a beautiful guy, Redford opted for more challenging movies and avoided using his sex appeal as a selling point. Both Downhill Racer and Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here, which were both released in 1969, were directed by his hands. A darkly sarcastic look at campaigning, The Candidate from 1972, was another significant picture for Redford. As his fame grew, Redford sought solace outside of the spotlight. As he grew older, he continued to purchase land in Utah, which he began doing so as recently as the 1960s. He became involved in environmental issues because of his deep affection for the earth. For his efforts to thwart certain developments in Utah in the 1970s, Redford received death threats. The Way We Were and The Sting were two of Redford's biggest box office successes in 1973. When Redford paired up with Barbra Streisand in Way We Were, a film directed by Sidney Pollack, they played a married couple dealing with the ups and downs of their relationship. In The Sting, Redford and Newman reprised their roles as 1930s Chicago con artists. The picture earned Redford his first Oscar nomination. He worked with Faye Dunaway and Mia Farrow in the 1974 adaptation of The Great Gatsby, which was directed by Sidney Pollack, and then starred in the 1975 CIA thriller 3 Days of the Condor, which was also directed by Pollack at this period. All the President's Men, released in 1976, marked Redford's return to politics, and he went on to win an Oscar for it. Dustin Hoffman and he starred as Watergate reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein in the critically acclaimed film version of their real-life characters. Ordinary People in Oscar. Ordinary People, Redford's first feature-length film, proved that he was far more than just a movie star, depicting a family torn apart by pain and loss. Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland, and Timothy Hutton starred in the picture, which was his directorial debut. It was for this film that Redford won his first Oscar, for Best Director. During this time period, Redford was instrumental in establishing the Sundance Institute, which provides workshops and other forms of assistance to independent filmmakers. Thus, the Sundance Film Festival, previously created under a different appellation, was positioned as an industry cornerstone for decades as a similar forum for independent movies to be viewed and promoted. While working in the 1980s, Redford only took part in a handful of films. The Natural, 1984, starring Robert Duvall and Glenn Close, and Out of Africa, 1985, with Meryl Streep, were two of his most notable roles. The Milagro Beanfield War, 1988, starring Ruben Blades and Sonia Braga, was directed by Redford again. Local farmers are shown in the film fighting against a huge development project in their neighborhood. Brad Pitt and Tom Skerritt starred in Redford's rural family drama A River Runs Through It, 1992. Quiz Show, a film about 1950s game show corruption, earned him 2 additional Oscar nods in the categories of directing and Best Picture 2 years later. The Horse Whisperer, which he directed, produced, and starred in as well, saw Redford go from director to triple threat. The sexually charged 1993 success, Indecent Proposal, as well as the 1996 journalism drama Up Close and Personal with Michelle Pfeiffer had both seen him gain notoriety as an actor. Acting as Dan Rather in the film Truth. Recently, Redford has been more selective in the films he has made. Before Lions for Lamb starring Tom Cruise and Meryl Streep, he made The Legend of Bagger Vance, which was a commercial and critical success, but was a commercial and critical failure as well. Mary Surratt's prosecution for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln is examined in his next film, The Conspirator, which was released in 2011. The Company You Keep, starring Shia LaBeouf and Julie Christie, was Redford's directorial and leading role for the following year. The plot revolves around a radical from the 1960s who has been hiding out in the shadows until he is discovered by a journalist. In 2013's All Is Lost, Redford portrayed a sailor in a life-or-death situation, and he delivered an amazing performance. Captain America, The Winter Soldier co-star Chris Evans followed up his role in the Marvel Comics outing with an adaptation of Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods in 2015. He played real-life journalist Dan Rather in Truth the following year, an examination of 60 Minutes' contentious coverage of George W. Bush's service in the war on a war correspondent. Many prizes and distinctions have been bestowed to Redford. In addition to his personal accomplishments as a filmmaker, he will go down in film history as someone who opened doors for others to do the same. For his role as inspiration to independent and inventive filmmakers everywhere, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences honored him in 2001 with an honorary award. President Barack Obama bestowed the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Robert Redford in 2016. Private life. Sybil Sagers, a German painter, is Redford's current wife. After dating since the mid-1990s, the couple was married in Hamburg in 2009. There were 4 children from his previous marriage to Lola, girls Shauna and Amy, as well as sons Scott and Jamie. Retirement. During a press conference on August 6, 2018, Redford announced that his starring role in the forthcoming criminal comedy The Old Man and the Gun would be his last. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Robert Redford said, "Never say never, but I fairly well determined that this would be it in terms of acting, and I will move towards retirement after this because I've been doing it since I was 21. After a while, I said to myself, that's it. And what better way to leave than with something joyful and optimistic?" Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.